Good morning, good morning, good morning, Liverpool supporters from all over the land. I am Gally, bringing you a sleepy and groggy start to this pre-match analysis show. I want to thank my buddy Brian Shelton for joining me nice and early. Brian, you got to remind me, you are in Eastern time zone, so it's still
Yeah.
6:45?
Oh yeah.
That's what I
Oh
thought.
yeah.
All right, so I don't have to you don't get the double medal. Anyone coming from the Chicagoland, they get the double. If Kazi shows up, he gets the normal. Kazi, you're fucking insane. Why are
Yeah.
you up at 3:45 other than, with a sick kid? Hopefully, Millie's doing better, isn't feeling under the weather. And if you are up right now, hi, Millie, my favorite Liverpool supporter, up and listening to us idiots speak about the match. But we got a lot of viewers already jumping in here. So let's remind everyone, if you haven't already, get on over to the YouTube page, search for American Scouser, like and subscribe to the channel, get all the great updates, get involved in the show if you like, become a contributor, write an article, do some graphics, help us out as we grow the largest independent supporters group in the United States. So let's get right at it. Liverpool traveling to Brentford Football Club, where they will take on Brentford on the road in a tricky fixture at the dreaded lunchtime kickoff. So before we talk about the lineups or the injuries or anything leading up to this, Brian, can you what is it about this Brentford side that seems to give us such fits? Because they've been back in the Premier League now for 3 or 4 seasons. We have not secured 3 points away at their stadium yet since they've regained the Football League. Is it their style, their format? Is it the way that Thomas Frank coaches? What do you think it is about Brentford that makes them such a tough matchup for our Reds?
I think a lot of it has to do with Tony. I mean, just us ability to track back and defend him because every time he just gets in the right spaces all the time. And again, like you said right there, even with their style of play, I mean, they don't give up. They're a constant counterattacking side. So I think that that it's the days that we handle them, and plus going away to London right there is never the easiest trip for us, except for when we go to Wembley on the occasion. So I mean, it's it's just a tough side. I mean, everybody has problems with them. I mean, Chelsea has problems with them. I mean, City has problems with them. They're well programmed side.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Speaking of well programmed, we'll bring in Gordo. Gordo, good morning, my friend. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, guys. It was a rough start. I realized I left my laptop in the car and it dropped to about 10 degrees last night. So that's why I look like a ghost because
Ooh.
my camera up here is still waking up.
That's all right. We'll let the camera roll through, and before you know it, you'll come out of the witness protection program, and we'll find out whether or not you killed those ducks and who is out to get you. So, speaking of out to get you, Kazi might not be on live, but that SOB is up. Well played, Kaz, on you. Brentford are so good at second balls; they want the battle and beat us in transition. Tough game. I couldn't agree more. This one's always one. I just mentioned it. 3 years they've been back at the top flight. We still have yet to secure 3 points in their stadium. Even one of those matches without Ivan Toney, while he was off on his suspension. I'm sure he placed a good bet that day. Liverpool first to score, not to get 3 points. Sorry, Ivan. You're going to have to live with that one for a while. It's this early, and I can still think of ways to insult people from half a world away. It's pretty amazing. It's good to be Gally. But yeah, I don't really love the matchup either. I agree with Kazi. I think the fact that they play as direct as they do, I think it nullifies some of the things we like to do playing football through the middle. And I think we've seen lineups be absolutely wrong in our tactics against them in the past. I remember one time we started like Thiago and Hendo in midfield, thought we were just going to play the ball around them all match. And they literally just went wide the entire time, threw crosses in, and Embuemo just crushed us, him and Tony. I think it was a 2-goal, 1-assist match for each of them. And we came back multiple times. And then there was also the time with the 3-1 lead that we capitulated in the second half. So I think it's a big test here today. Obviously, with the news coming out yesterday that there was an image similar to this one in training, I feel like makes this match even tougher. It's one thing when you don't have a starting defender. I think when you don't have the organizational shape, and I know what Virgil does at the back, but I think Allison probably doesn't get enough credit for the way he allows the defense to play. I think Kelleher is a very good deputy. I think he is a long, long drop off, and I think he's playing side like Brentford with their physicality up front. Allison may not be the biggest and strongest keeper in the world when it comes to getting balls in the air, but I feel more comfortable with him not making a mistake than I do Kelleher not having a mistake in his game. Clearly, it's still early and having enough coffee. I almost just combined Kelleher and Allison into one. Gordo, what say you on the injury and how much?
It's for me. It's we have to be one of the most unlucky teams when it comes to injuries, especially like when we need people to go through. And I don't know if it's training regimens or if it's just like the intensity that Klopp has like demands even in training that these guys go down all the time. But it always feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back in the sense of injuries. Now this year has been a little different in the sense that with Klopp's rotation, it hasn't affected us as much as it would maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So that's been nice. But it's even starting to affect his rotation because, a couple of games ago, we had 11 players that we couldn't select. And it makes Klopp's decision easy because he only has 11 players to put out there. But it makes it very difficult when you're trying to go for a long run and rotate players. And if you don't have those players available, then you end up with the same problem that we've always had, is that we kind of are overusing certain players. And I think, Allison's one of them at this point. And I hope that Kelleher doesn't follow the same suit because he's, in 2024, what he's already played half the games. So I'm a little nervous about it. It does worry me.
Cosgrove says, any chance we don't judge everything Kelleher does and comparing it to Ali, that would be nice. And to be honest, that wasn't the point of my comment. My point of the comment was I think when Kelleher knows he's going to play and has days of preparation and training, it's a lot easier than getting ready for a match 48 hours before. And I understand he's a professional, but I think mentally you prepare yourself as the number 2 to be ready for anything at any one time. And you prepare yourself as a number 1 in different ways, physically, mentally, when it comes to preparation midweek, different tactics you're going to deploy from the back. And I also think that we don't alter our style of play when any player comes in at this club. And because of that, I think at times you ask people to do things to keep the normal formations and plans in place, like playing out of the back. And I think a team like Brentford, that could spell trouble. I'd feel much more comfortable if this was us bringing Kelleher in for the Luton match, even to get him prepared for the weekend, if that makes sense. Speaking of making sense, not that often, we're going to bring in Maka here. The big guy comes in. Good morning, my friend from Connecticut. How are you? Jesus gave you the day off?
Yeah, maybe. just like Kelleher, I have to be prepared to work at any point in time.
Well, it is a defined intervention. You have moments where you are just called upon, and you are acting upon the world. You are doing the Lord's work, literally. If the Lord was, investing in the largest ads at the Super Bowl. But we're not going to talk about that match again because we're going to go 5-a-side right now. You notice he's wearing a Liverpool hat these days, an American Scouser Liverpool hat, and not that San Francisco 49ers hat, because that season is over, people. We will get back to that.
Trying to put that behind us.
Different time. So good morning, guys. We were talking a little bit about Kelleher and Allison here. David Cosgrove makes a great comment, other than the fact that he makes a comment that he clearly suffers from insomnia because he doesn't sleep. From the West Coast, talking about Kelleher, the manager's lineups, how good Brentford is at the second balls, specifically to Allison and Kelleher back there, and the differences we have. Where's the level of Timuchin nerves as we go into a match that was probably already going to be cagey and nervy when you find out you're going with your secondary keeper just 24 hours before the match starts?
I think it's more because it's Brentford, like the set pieces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I kind of trust Ali a lot more on those than I trust Kelleher. I mean, and like Kazi says, we talked about it on yesterday's morning show too. It's probably unfair. I mean, nobody should be compared to Alisson because we refer to him as the best goalie in the world. But it does affect things a lot, regardless. And I'm sure it affects the players as well to know who's behind you, especially in those set pieces, like the confidence level of when Ali is going to come up. And it's like familiarity too, right? Like, certain balls, your goalie's coming out for that, and he's probably coming and get it. I think that's like the biggest concern because it is Brentford and how they play. But I do like the lineup overall. I do like the back four. That's who's in front of Kelleher. So, I mean, this is probably the best lineup we can throw out there right now with what's available.
Yeah, Kazi said, I don't think the manager has started his best 11 this season, which is a testament to the lads. I don't disagree with that. I think he was getting closer and closer to having that opportunity as Endo and Salah came back from AFCON and we started to get players more healthy. This Szoboszlai injury, there's talk that he might be back for next week's Cup final. I just really hope they don't rush anyone back, whether it's for a weekend on the bench or a day out at Wembley. I know it's a huge accomplishment to play in a final, and it's different getting that winner's medal when you're not even wearing the jersey and walking through with your guys on the field. I get that. But there's bigger things at play here. And I really feel like being strategic and selfish as a club right now would help us. So, Maka, let's go to you here. Let's start with the back four. What are your thoughts on Bradley going right back into the lineup? Are you surprised that Joe Gomez didn't get a start today?
We talked about this on Thursday. Bradley, unfortunately, suffered a personal tragedy, but in the cynical, pure terms of soccer, he wasn't injured. So the only thing he had to have right was his head. And to be honest, he's a better right back overall, I think, right now anyway, than Gomez. Gomez is great, but Bradley just has like something else. He has a little bit more to him that maybe just like, that excitement of youth or something like that. Which peters out, and then he gets ruined, and then he gets a gambling problem, and then a drinking problem, and then 10 kids that nobody knows about until much later when he writes about it in his autobiography. But right now, I think Bradley is, as long as his head's right, I think he's the automatic choice for that right back spot with Trent out.
I think you're getting him confused with Jordan Ibe.
Yeah. He'll just end up playing in a 17th tier division somewhere else, and Bournemouth will still be trying to figure out why they spent $35 million for him.
Connor Bradley is Jordan Ibe's son.
It's a good chance, actually. For the way that Jordan Ibe's career had passed, I might think that was the case. Gordo, how about you, midfield? Talk to me there. McAllister, Endo, Jones, I think it was something we were calling for on a few of the different shows here across all the different programming we do, with the attempt to see McAllister more further forward. Don't know it was his best showing last week. Maybe he was caught in two minds that he's been programmed to remember he's a 6. And now he's back to where he wants to be as an 8. And he's like, wait, do I go forward? Do I sit here? Do I tackle? What do you expect from that midfield today? How important do you think that midfield is against a side like this to make sure that they're not passing around us and really hitting us on the counters?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think maybe Klopp's hand was forced a little earlier than he intended last week by putting Endo in there. And when you've played a certain position, we've talked about this. I've heard you guys on other podcasts talk about this so much, is when you step into another role, when even like in my experience playing in another role, you look at the field differently. You expect to kind of look up when you're going through your motions and see, am I to the right of the lines? Am I to the left of the lines? Like who's next to me? Who's in front of me? So I think McAllister kind of didn't have enough time to settle into that role. And now he's had an entire week, which I'm sure this is Klopp's only option. So I'm sure this is the way he was going to go. I'm sure McAllister trained all week in this position. So it'll be interesting to see, because I felt the same way last week, where I felt at times that Endo and McAllister were playing next to each other. And I was like, one of them has to be in front. And it just didn't seem like it was gelling. And then every once in a while, McAllister would make a run. So hopefully today we kind of get to see what I think everyone's been itching for, is McAllister to play a little bit higher, Endo to cover that 6 role, and we can see what kind of magic we can go through the lines.
Ryan, when we look at that front three, we're talking about Jota, Nunez, Diaz, which I would argue has clearly separated itself as the preferred front three during Mo's time away at AFCON and then leading back from his unfortunate hamstring injury that he picked up while away on international duty. Do you expect to see what we've been seeing a lot of, which is Jota on the right, Nunez through the middle with Diaz on the left, and then a lot of interchange? And, what exactly do you think in the tactics here? What do you think is in Klopp's mind? Do you think it's just Salah just doesn't have 90 minutes in him and he'd prefer to get 30 from him in the second half to ramp him up for midweek and then the weekend? Or do you think Salah is really on the bench as much for a precaution and because we don't have another senior adult to actually fill a jersey?
I think it's more what you said in the latter right there. I think Salah is just on the bench right there just because we don't have a senior forward. I mean, we could have pulled up Dan's or somebody like that, but I mean, that's pretty drastic to start pulling kids in those positions right there. But I think that it's, we may see Salah maybe for maybe a 10-minute just to run out right there just to kind of see just assess him where he's at. It depends on where the match is at the point. But I mean, this lineup right here, as far as Jota, Nunez, and Diaz, is our best lineup. I think that Gapco kind of had a little bit of a run out, and I didn't think he really came up there and put himself in the good with the side. I mean, as far as Gapco coming in possibly as a replacement for Nunez at one point, I think you lose a lot of Nunez's abilities right there, which is, I know that our Thursday of us bashing Nunez and all that, but it's just the work rate that he does. I mean, that sets him aside from Gapco. I mean, I watched Gapco in there. There's a couple of times where he got lost in that mix. And I think that Jota is. I think Jota and Diaz are starting to kind of prefer Nunez now, kind of like how we said Mo preferred Nunez because we know what we get. It's somebody who's going to just drive constantly, and actually go ahead and set up plays. I mean, got to go with this three.
So Brian Thompson jumps in. Morning, Allison's still sick. Unfortunately, Ryan, I wish that was the case. Not sure. I have Liverpool medical staff's getting a lot of flack for rushing players back. I'm not sure if Allison had the shit so bad last weekend that he blew out a hamstring, but I'm not sure that was a rush back. I think this is just a compound injury.
Depends how long you're sitting on that toilet seat. You never know.
Maka, I do not want to hear. I want to hear nothing about what keeps you out of God's starting lineup during the week. Okay, keep that up to yourself. Timuchin, great segue back to the game because that was disturbing. Subs, talk to me about this bench. We've joked about how we went from having the deepest bench we ever saw to basically running a daycare the last few weeks with the players and the numbers on the bench. Feel confident and comfortable that should we need to, there's enough reinforcements there from the bench to bring on changes and maybe even have to go win this match?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that bench right there. I mean, you do have a very quality substitute for every position except, I mean, the only thing I can think of is, if you're taking Endo out, you can always slide Mac back and then, put Gravenberg and stuff like that. But that's still a pretty darn good bench right there. I agree with Brian. I think we do see Mo either way, regardless of the score. We see him out there either to close out a game or to chase a game, whatever the case might be. But I think we see Mo for 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game, and probably see more of him against Luton Town as we get him ready for the final kind of thing. But I don't know. I think that's pretty solid. You got Gomez over there who can fill multiple positions. You have Gravenberg who can come in and make an impact. You have Elliott, which is probably your best sub coming off the bench all season and making an impact. And then you have Gakpo up front who, can give you flexibility when it comes to formation. He can come in into midfield. He can come in up top and, kind of push people wide, whatever the case might be. But I think that's pretty solid right there. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, I think that's pretty impressive, actually, that despite all the people we're missing, that's still a pretty respectable bench we have there.
And lining up, Gordo, we'll start with you talking about Brentford here. Quick thoughts on the Dutch national team. I mean, no, I'm the Brentford team. I mean, yeah. What are we thinking here from Thomas Frank and the rest of his I don't know. This feels odd to me because we talk about how they're such a tough side, and then I look at the names on that list and I think to myself, there shouldn't be that much tough. This team has Neil Mopay playing alongside Ivan Toney. The guy couldn't make it at Everton. It's got Ben Mee and a failed guy in Collins. Like it's just a team littered of journeymen that I feel like Thomas Frank has playing at three notches above their overall level, and he has for what the better part of 3-5 years now.
Yeah, I just think it just goes to show that you get your tactics right and you find the right people to slot in, that you don't need the best 11. You just need an 11 that knows which direction your goal is in and which direction the other goal is in. Because the other one that you forgot was Reguilon. He's currently on loan from Tottenham, and I don't think he'll make it back in the side. I always think like when you loan a player out to another team in the same league as you, you're not coming back. There's no way. Why would they give you up? But I mean, Neil Mopay he's found his form again. Ivan Toney's hit the ground running. Of course, it's a dangerous side, and like you said, like when you look at it on paper, it doesn't make much sense. But when you watch them, everything clicks, everything flows. They know their purpose. Everybody goes out there with a job, and they all do it for 90 minutes. And it's a tough place to. Well, obviously we don't have to go, but they're a tough team to play.
And my apologies to all the Dutch out there. It's the Danish, but I haven't eaten yet this morning. And now Maka has got to go eat 6 Danishes before he goes and watches the match. So I just ruined everything from here to Connecticut because Maka's going to end up eating out stores of Danish because I had to go ahead and talk about it in the morning show. Maka,
it's better than 6
from this
touches.
side. It is a great point. Maka, that is a good one. Maka, what jumps out at you here? What do the side have to worry about? Do they have anything coming off of their bench that really makes you nervous? Like, what is Liverpool and Klopp's number one concern when it comes to taking on this Brentford side on the road today?
It's going to be a shocking thing to say, but Neil Mopay and Ivan Toney up front. That's like we talk about, Frank being on the bookies sheet for replacing Klopp. It's not realistic, I don't think, but like he should be in the conversation if a one season Alonso is. But this is exactly why. It's because he's taking players like Neil Mopay and making them look like they're part of a world-beaten team at times, and taking Ivan Toney and making him look like he has some sort of direction in his life.
He does. That's through the bookies.
Through the bookies, yeah. He's also betting on Thomas Frank going to Liverpool. But that's the thing. He knows how to use the players he has at his disposal. He doesn't do any fancy frills. It's just like a nice curiosity that Ager played for Brendan Rodgers at Celtic. And Brendan Rodgers didn't fancy him because he didn't tend to fancy good ball-playing defenders despite his philosophy. But he didn't know how to get the best out of the players he had. He forced players into a style of play all the time that wasn't necessarily the style of play they needed. Whereas Frank just goes, right, Ivan Toney can run fast and put the ball in the back of the net. Neil Mopay can be an annoying bastard. Let's pair them up top. And then when you guys get the ball, lash it up to them as many times as possible. And one of them is going to break for us. And that, I think, is the danger for us. We're not going to be expecting a team. I hope we're not expecting a team to play out from the back. We should be, especially with our offside trap, be ready for a long ball skying over the top. And if we're standing there looking at it, that's where we're going to get a bit of trouble. Because as good as Caoimhín Kelleher is, he's not Alisson when it comes to those through balls and getting out and dealing with them as efficiently as Alisson does. So that for me is the only danger, is if we can keep them too quiet or stop the long balls at source, set pieces will be the only thing we probably have to worry about.
If you're watching right now on Instagram, Twitter, X, wherever the heck you are, YouTube, go ahead, drop your predictions, maybe even your man of the match into the comment section here. We'll just use them to ridicule you in the post-match show. So don't worry, come back and see how that goes. And Timuchin will be hosting, I believe it's you, right, Timuchin?
Yes.
You're going to host the post-match, which will come probably 5-10 minutes after the final whistle. However quick, the dogs can hopefully get their snacks, get their treats. We can reward them for the victory, so Kazi doesn't have to be reminding Timuchin during the show to do it. And then he can get the room set up, and we'll be rocking and rolling. So don't forget, as soon as the final whistle, get back in here to see exactly how poor our predictions were. Let's start with you, Gordo. You officially are, the laptop is up to room temperature. You are out of the witness protection program. What exactly do you foresee from a final score, and do you have a man of the match you would like to tie to that prediction?
Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying if you get your predictions right with the goal scorers, I've heard that Matoush flies out and takes you to a 5-star restaurant of your choosing. So
that's all a big fat lie, because it's Matoush. That 5 stars would probably be 5 stops at Wendy's or something. But if he was making you a cocktail, he would make you something fine, probably smoked and well crafted. I'll tell you that right now. He wouldn't get you a nice cold, IPA anywhere, but he would get you a fine crafted cocktail. How I can think about fine crafted cocktails at 7:15 in the morning probably speaks to more of my problems. You got a man of the match for us on the score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Endo as the man of the match. I think he's going to see a lot of actions. He's going to have to break up a lot of the through balls that are going to probably be coming through to him. Like you said, they're going to be targeting Neil Maupay and Ivan Toney up top. So look for him to be breaking those lines. In terms of score, I think it's going to be much of the same what we saw a couple weeks ago versus Manchester City, where the game's really tight. Liverpool edges out a 2-1 win.
And Brian, how about you? Give me a score, man of the match, any keys to the victory? Assuming you're calling for a victory.
Yeah, I'm going with the 2-0 right there. I think that we're going to have a split right there between Jota and Diaz in there. I think they're going to set up. And I think I'm going to kind of go with what Gordo said. I think the Endo's going to come there and have a lot to play in this match right there, especially with protecting our defense and with Kother shutting down that midfield. But yeah. But speaking of all the smoking stuff, it's a smoking weekend, guys. So, yeah.
We're almost there, people. We're almost to that point of the year where if you're inside our Discord channel, you realize that you just live vicariously through others. And I eat vicariously on Sunday afternoons through Brian and his family and the way that they smoke meat. Because if that meat can be smoked, Brian has figured out how to do it and do it well.
Hey.
So keep the pictures coming, my friend.
Hey, it's that magic 99-cent pound of pork butts. So you know when that happens, starts rolling.
There you go. The things you find out at 6:45, 6:15, 7:15 in the morning. 99-cent pork butts is the way to go. Maka, I dare you to follow that up.
I'm going 4-0. Nunez hat-trick, Salah off the bench. Endo, man of the match, but sharing it probably with Bradley. And then I don't want to make any sort of comments because apparently I'm going to be eating 5 Danishes and we're talking about smoking meats. So let's stay the conversation well away from that before everybody chucks up their breakfast.
Fair play. Appreciate you for that. Timuchin, give me that score and explain to me how a striker gets 3 goals and a holding midfielder ends up man of the match. I'm still trying to figure that math out.
I see. You said Danishes, so he's gone right now. He's just he can't think anything but those Danishes.
Right? He's thinking to himself. He's like cheese Danish, raspberry Danish. Brentford
Parker has left his mind at this point, so I'm still going with that crazy lineup. I know everybody is expecting it to be a lot tighter, but I think whenever we play these guys, it does get out of whack sometimes. I'm going with like the 4-2 away win. And I'm going with Jota as the key person getting 2 of those goals. But yeah, I think it's going to be a wild one. And really, really like the key player to me, especially defensively, is Konate. Because all they do is they're kind of like, get that ball up there for Tony to bring it down. And the key is going to be, I feel like Van Dijk, I have a lot more confidence in like intercepting that ball and not fouling, because all they're going for is either bringing that ball down to Maupay from like 20 or somebody, or they want to get a foul and get a set piece. So Konate's sometimes rash challenges, that's what I worry about, giving up a lot of set pieces. If we do not do that, I think we get goals on them and hopefully more goals than them. So let's go with the 4-2.
I love all the confidence, all these goals. I maybe am jaded because I've watched far too many 0-0 draws when Liverpool plays lunchtime kickoffs. And we didn't get into it because I hate the subject, but we've created this narrative that we can't win games at this time of the day and that we're the only team that struggles with it when like all teams struggle with it because it just throws you out of your normal day-to-day routines. It makes you wake up earlier, get to the stadiums earlier. All the things get thrown off. So it'll be interesting to me. That's the reason I think it'll be a little more cagey, maybe less goals. I think it might start slow. I've gotten every prediction wrong for the last month or two, basically from scores to people. I've called things out in Discord and minutes later they happen. So I'm hoping my slow start call right now is like Nunez with a goal in the first 45 seconds, because I think that could change this whole match. I think an early goal for Liverpool and we roll. I really do believe that. I think if Brentford has to come out, the longer we allow them to feel like they're not touching the ball, but still in control of the match, which is what they do a lot, I think their confidence will grow and ours will wane. And I'm with you, Tamuchin. I think Konate has to be big, not just in not giving up needless fouls and set plays, but in supporting Bradley, Endo, and most importantly, physically battling with those center backs because they are a big, big side when it comes to set plays. So we need him to be just as good on set plays, defending them, as he is not giving away needless, frivolous ones in tough spots. So going to be really interesting there. Excited to see them back. Want to thank everyone who viewed this morning and chimed in with your comments. We dropped the link to the Discord channel. So if you want to interact with these idiots during matches instead of just before and after the matches, feel free to go jump into that Discord channel today, say hello, get your banter on, maybe even check out some smoked meat by the end of the weekend, share a drink recipe or two, or banter and or argue about all kinds of random ass things. But if you haven't already, I don't know what's wrong. You still have 10 minutes before the match happens. So there's time between making another cup of coffee. Get over to our YouTube page, subscribe today, turn the notifications on. You'll get all the great updates of all the different content and the new programming that we're working on in 2024. And of course, don't forget, we have our Instagram page, our X page. We've started a Patreon site with additional content. So there's so many ways to engage with the crew at American Scouser at this point. And we would love to have you as part of it. If you're interested in becoming a contributor, a writer, a graphic designer, someone to help us with social media, or you just have an idea that you think could make this an even better community for Liverpool Reds all across the world, please get in touch with us. We value that feedback unless it's about me and it's a complaint. And then it goes directly to
really
and that goes directly. Yeah, and then we really value it and we'll probably use it in a program. But in all seriousness, I'm Gally. Thank you to the rest of you for joining us today. We will be back as soon as the match ends. Go get your coffees refreshed, get to the couches, enjoy the match. If you're at the pub, you're a bigger alcoholic than me. All right, everyone.
Watch those hamstrings on the toilets, guys. Watch those hamstrings.
Yeah, exactly. Watch these. There's going to be some. We don't need any of those blowouts today, okay? None of those.
Make sure they're on the toilet if you are going to blow out.
Exactly. We will all be back for the post-match show, and there is no other way to get out of here than that, people. Make it a good one. Up the Reds.